school presentations, parent groups, open to the public, 3 minutes per speaker for no longer than 60 minutes. We'll have our superintendent's report, our correspondence and board comments, personnel agenda, consent agenda. We will approve the tax warrant. We'll have an addendum for personnel, and then we will not be using the second executive session. We will then adjourn the meeting. We do have a couple of corrections on the agenda. On page 3 of the personnel agenda, on letter I, the appointment for Denise Klein, the salary is incorrect. That number should read $60,453. And if you continue on to page 6 of the personnel agenda, letter S, you do see a corrected number. You should see an 8 scratched out and a 16. They realized that there was an error. Originally, they were going to be appointed for just 8 hours maximum per individual, but they need a corrected 16 hours. So you should have the 16 there, but I just want to point out why there was a scratch out. Okay. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes of the previous regular meeting held on Monday, July 14th, 2014, as circulated.
Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. May I have a motion for the minutes of the special meeting?
Motion to approve the minutes of the previous special meeting held on Tuesday, July 22nd, 2014, as circulated.
Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And before we begin, I'd like to read a statement on behalf of the Board of Education. The Board of Education and Dr. Dorwood have reached an agreement through which he has resigned his position as Superintendent of Schools. The parties have reached agreement upon the language of a letter of reference that will be submitted upon request to prospective employers, members of the public, or the media. That letter is available upon request by contacting the district clerk, Kelly Pology. That letter will constitute the board's statement regarding Dr. Dorwood's time in the district. Our efforts will now be focused upon how to move forward and create an environment in which the district can attract and retain quality leadership. We are happy to have Dr. Walkley lead us in that process. Do we have any student or school presentations tonight? Any parent groups? Open to the public. Who would like to speak?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Just set this doesn't work. Okay, I don't think I need it. Dr. Walkley, on behalf of the Beacon Teachers Association, congratulations on your appointment as interim superintendent, and we sincerely welcome you back to the district. We have had the opportunity of working with you in the past, and you have proven to be a leader who brings knowledge, vision, support, stability, and compassion. The positive information regarding the AYP and the data that you shared tonight was a direct reflection of your leadership when you were here last. We wish you much success. We look forward to working with you this year and moving forward in a positive direction. Thank you. I'd like to thank the Board of Education as well for approving that. Dr. Walkley being here. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mary Ann Keogh. I am a teacher at South Avenue Elementary. I'm also the new vice president for the Beacon Teachers Association. I too want to congratulate Dr. Walkley on your appointment as interim superintendent and look forward to working collaboratively with you this school year. Thank you.
How'd you take it when I came up? I talked that loud?
Just want to change out the microphone.
Oh, okay. Thank you. My name is Frank Bug, resident of Beacon. I too would like to take this opportunity to formally welcome Dr. Walton back to Beacon, and hope that we have a successful school year relationship. My question, though, is to the board, and I'd like to ask if all of the hiring for the instructional and administrative positions that you needed to fill has been completed.
Actually, it hasn't been completed yet. We are still in the hiring process, and I actually have another job to post. So things continue to change as we go forward, so that it is not complete.
Have you done any interviewing or hiring with people?
There are some positions this evening, and I have personally done some interviewing, yes.
You said that there has been some interviewing,
Yes, I have done some interviews. Yeah.
and some of the people you have already offered jobs, or have gone to the final stage.
Yes, yes,
Were any of those minorities?
yes.
They were minorities.
In interviews, yes.
In
And for some of the appointments, yes.
and for some of the appointments. I asked that question because via one route or another, I submitted to the board, to Melissa personally, 9 resumes of minority candidates that I thought and still believe met the requirements for several of the positions was there, and that there was another 13 applications sent in directly via the OBOT system, and at my instruction they identified themselves as minorities as well. And so that's 20 people. And in my latest conversation with them, not one of them has been interviewed. Not one of them has received any contact from the board. Would anybody care to offer an explanation or maybe some reasoning as to why that's the case?
Well, I could offer a little bit of insight.
I would like to see some of the board members answer some of these questions. They're on the job.
Mr. Bug,
Because they were here and you weren't. We've been battling this with them now for over 2 years.
but the board is not involved in the process of selecting candidates to interview. The
No,
board,
you're not.
we're not involved in any way, so we have no knowledge.
You are involved directly.
We're involved in the approval of their hiring, at which time they come on the agenda. But until that process, the board is not involved in the selection
The board
process.
is involved. It is the board. This board has made on several occasions statements to the fact that we are very dissatisfied with the number of minorities that we have. You have made a statement committing yourselves to diversifying the staff at Beacon High School. I know no way of diversifying other than hiring some minorities. But the board is involved because it's supposed to be your policy, your dictate that says to the superintendent and to the site supervisors and everybody else that we are attempting or making every effort to increase the number of minorities in the school, in the
Yes.
school system, which you have done. And that's the direct, because we know that if the board doesn't make a public commitment and keep to it, nobody else is.
I agree with you
And
wholeheartedly,
so
Mr.
what I'm
Buck,
saying
and we
is-
have made that statement. And we have
Yes.
impressed
And-
upon everyone throughout the community and throughout our district that is a,
What about the site supervisors? Were any of them directly
the site
advised?
supervisors are our principals.
I know,
Our
that's
principals
what I'm
are
saying.
here tonight, many of them, and many
Were
of others
they
have.
advised that we are looking to hire minorities and increase the number of minorities in the school district. Were they
That
told
directive would come through the central office staff. The
What-
board does not directly give any type of instruction to building principals.
No.
If I could just add something here. I have met with the administrative team, and prior to the previous superintendent leaving, there was a hiring process that was approved by the Board of Education that you and I talked about when we met, and you felt that that was a sound hiring process. And we we are following that process. We are ensuring that we are following that process. I also shared with you at that time that we have been talking quite extensively about candidates, the qualifications that we would like to see in candidates. And we are creating a list of standard qualifications that we would like to see in any employee, any teaching professional employee in the district. And we have challenged ourselves with that process because, as I explained to you, as soon as you put down a criteria, you begin to be exclusive. For example, if we say we would like a teacher for this position who has 3 years of experience, then we've excluded all of the teachers who have less than 3 years of experience. So you have started us thinking very deeply about being inclusive in our hiring practices and not discriminatory in any way. And I think that if all of you begin to think about that, I think you'll find that it's true what I said. As soon as you put a criteria, you begin to exclude some people. We also talked about...
All the positions that they have advertised in the past, Dr. Walkley, have had job descriptions to them and criteria from and
I don't
so
think to the extent. If I'm going to interrupt you. I'm sorry, but you interrupted me first.
Frustrating.
I think that what we can agree to is that what's been advertised in the paper is a broad overview. There is additional information that people can get about criteria or about the job description that goes much more in detail. And I think that what gets printed in the paper, we would never hire on such a small amount of information. And we also talked about we want to hire the best qualified. There are many, many people who are qualified for jobs in a school district or in a workplace. As a matter of fact, for one position here, one teaching position, we had 900 applicants. And with 900 applicants, there were many, many people who were qualified. So, yes, whether their ethnicity is not identified, we can't ask for that information. That's against the law.
I need to interrupt you because I only got 3 minutes. Let me ask this. What does this board intend to do? What do you intend to do to increase the number of minorities that you're hiring? I continue to hear this for 3 years. We had 900 people apply for this and so forth. But, you know, the thing is, you've still got a closed system, even with the system that Dr. Dorwood put in. We don't know who you hired or who you interviewed, what your qualifications are, or anything. It's very conceivable to me that you hired some non-minorities who are less qualified or equally qualified as some of the minorities that I sent.
Well,
Will you be willing to show us the qualifications of those people that you did hire? Is there any legal reason why they can't show me the qualifications of the people they hired? Or is that just a board policy?
There are aspects of individuals' professional backgrounds that are available to the public pursuant to a Freedom of Information Law request. There are other aspects of their professional qualifications that constitute an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. The fact that an individual has taken a position in a public school district does not mean that they have surrendered all of their rights to personal privacy.
What about us as citizens? Do we have a right to know who's being hired and what their qualifications are?
So you are,
I'm asking you a question.
That's right.
I'm trying to answer your question, sir.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
As I indicated, the fact that somebody's taken a job doesn't mean that they have surrendered all of their rights to privacy. To the extent that there are requests for certain types of professional information regarding their background, then that information is legitimately available. There's a body of law out there concerning what information is available to the public and what information is not available to the public concerning the individual qualifications of public employees.
Are you willing to advise them on that so that we can see what qualifications those people met? Because all I'm getting is lip sync. And that's all we're getting from the board for 3 years. And I'm personally very, very sick of it. We come here and they talk about the procedure. The procedure he lined out is perfect for any other organization in the world. But still, behind all of that, we don't know who gets interviewed. We don't know who gets hired. We don't know how they got hired or why. Can I sit in and look at those? You can't assure me here, based on what I see now, that you've done anything to try and include minorities in the hiring. I sent 21 resumes, all identified as minorities, 9 of which I personally handed over to the chair. Not one of them, 2 of them with master's degrees, 6 years of teaching experience, certification in both elementary and in special education, and they didn't even get a letter from this school system. They didn't even get an acknowledgement. And you're telling me that the 900 applicants you got were all doctorate degrees of people who've been teaching for 10 or 15 years? Well, if that's what you're saying, prove it to me. Show me the documents.
I don't think anybody's saying that the people that we're hiring have worked for 10 or 15 years.
Well, that's what I'm saying that because I want to see that's what would naturally be the case. If you didn't call or even interview the people that I just mentioned who have experience, who have certification, dual certification at that, who went to school in Beacon, who did their student teaching in Beacon, and who live in Beacon. They don't even
It's
get a
best for our
call.
kids. It's not what's best for our kids.
Now, tell me, I want to know what steps this board is going to take to hire people.
Dr.
And I
Walker,
want to hear from some of the other board members. Ain't nobody else on this board ever
Dr.
got
Walker,
anything
do we
to say
outline
about
an
this?
interview process? Does the district have a protocol and policy for the interview process?
There
And if
is,
so,
there is a board-approved process, and I am making sure that we are following that board-approved process.
And that process, incidentally, keeps everything that goes on secret. You see, they go right through the process, but site supervisors pick the names, they interview them, they make the recommendation. We don't know who they interviewed, who they called, what their qualifications are, or what the recommendations are. It's the same thing as the superintendent leaving here, nobody knows what the hell went on with him.
Well, I think that you're making some assumptions here, because
Assumption what?
we currently have 2 positions open that
What
are...
about the 4 that they advertised last year, earlier? Those are the ones I'm talking about first.
We currently have 2 positions open that are administrative positions.
Mhm.
And that they just closed, the application period just closed this Friday. And I am they go to 2 different buildings, and I am working with the principals in both buildings all the way through the hiring process. So they are not on their own. And with hires, there's people sitting here who I have personally gone and said, let me see your criteria. Let me see the criteria that you're using.
No, ask them who they interviewed. The criteria is going to be the same for everybody. Why don't you ask them, have you interviewed any minorities for these positions? Have you identified any? Otherwise, how do you intend to keep your commitment to hire minorities? What is this board going to do? I am convinced at this point, and increasingly more so, that this is the most discriminatory system of hiring that has existed in all of the area public schools. And I intend to take action based on that unless you can come up to me with a credible plan on how you are going to increase the number of minorities in the school district. Let me ask, do any of you know how many minorities you got in the school system? Any of the board members? Exactly. It's no interest of none of them. You got 226 teachers and you got 4 minorities, one of whom is an Asian who's an FTE serving in 4 different positions. Do you think that's right in a school system that has 51%, 52% minorities?
Did you just say there's 4 minority teachers?
I'm saying that's what the latest
That's not
thing
accurate
was.
information.
But do any of you know how many?
Kim?
How many is it? How many have you hired?
It's not 220 teachers. So
Okay, well, how many?
How many of them
How
are
many?
minorities? Does anybody
Tell us the
know?
percentage.
Well,
I can share.
I believe that we
Share.
can bring that information. I don't
See,
have
if
it right in
the
front
board
of me.
was serious about it, everybody here would know it.
So what is that?
If this was a problem that y'all want to solve, you would know how many minorities. You know that there's a critical situation out there. Nobody. I came to this board in 2011 and told them that they had a new minority population, 51% of the plus of the students were minorities. Not one board member here knew that.
Even the ones
Not
that are supposed
one.
to know, remember? The ones that are supposed to know.
And nobody knew it, but you continue to tell
I hear
us,
who I seem to be.
but you continue to tell us that we're serious about hiring minorities.
Mr. Buck,
We're going to hire some.
you were on
Yes,
the-
Mr. Zoll.
You were on the diversity committee with me 2 years ago.
I certainly
And
was.
one of the things we talked about was being able to reach out and try and recruit more from minority sources.
Yes.
But we also agreed upon the fact that we were not going to hire somebody solely on the basis of whether they're a
I
minority or
have
not.
never asked for anybody here.
It was going to be,
I have
we're hiring somebody based on their overall qualities, regardless of their color, their skin, their
I
religion.
have never asked, and if you ask Melissa, I have always insisted that all I want was hire minorities of equal qualification. Ask her. That's all
How
I've
about
ever
the
asked.
support
I've
staff?
never asked you to hire
Even the
somebody.
support staff,
Yeah.
even the support staff.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we agree that what we're looking for is people who are the best qualified for the position regardless of their personal attributes.
Yeah.
This is even for a support staff. I mean, even like for a janitor, right? Because even your support staff
I
are
am
not
outraged.
representative of
This
the
is
minority
nothing but a bunch
population.
of bull. Thank you for your time. This is just going to.
Not committed. You're not committed. You're not committed.
That's great.
My name is Isaac Breslau from Fishkill. I just want to let you know I have 2 children go through the school district. They were blessed with terrific education. They went on to higher education, did great. The purpose of me coming up is I'm deeply concerned about the transition of superintendents. No reflection, Dr. Walkley, but I'm sure all of you are totally aware of what's been going on. The track record is not impressive. What's more concerned is we're not really getting a lot of information about what's going on, why there are resignations. I feel as a taxpayer, as somebody who's voted on every board since I moved up here 30 years ago, and every budget, I feel we're entitled to a better explanation of what's going on. It's always been kind of a cryptic thing. All of a sudden we get this message. There was a sudden resignation. There were rules going on over 6 weeks ago before the public notification came out. that Dr. Dorward was leaving. I understand the principle of confidentiality. I totally respect it. But as somebody who's a member of this district and pays taxes to this district, I'd like to get a better understanding of what's going on. If it happened once, I can understand it, but 8 times? Last year, or last 2 years, I think during the summer, there was special meetings about having the public come forward to talk about what kind of criteria they want for a new superintendent, and it was at both of them. I don't know what happened. It's another resignation. So I'm hoping that we can get a better understanding of what's been going on. And again, no reflection on whatever.
You know, one of the things that strikes me, because I've been reading the paper, the way I look at it, there weren't 8 resignations. If you go back, and I don't keep the history, but there was someone who was here for quite a long time and left the district, retired, or whatever he did. And then somebody came on board who finished the contract and left.
Also retired.
Also retired.
retired.
Okay, another,
Dr. Parr.
and then another woman came who did a 3-year contract, finished the contract and left. Then there was an interim who had a contract for 6 months. That was Mr. Hilberg. And he did the 6 months because that was the contract and left. And then there was a gentleman who came, Dr. Van Loo, who only stayed a year. Then Mr. Hilberg came back with a 1-year contract. That was the contract, and he left. Dr. Dorward came and resigned, and now here I am. So not every, when you begin to look at that, there's been a lot of people here, but not everybody resigned, and left.
I mean, I've been here for 30 years, and after Mr. Dr. Chesroy left, I know Dr. Parr took over, and I totally understood, time to retire, fine. But after that, it got pretty dicey. Any case, that's splitting hairs. I think the gist of it is there's something going on. Just like a better explanation of what the problem is. It's been very, I understand confidentiality. I understand you can't give out all the information, but there's a lot of answers that need to be addressed, and the public deserves it. That's my point. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak tonight? Thank you.
Okay, I have 3 items. It'll be quick. I'll tell you a little bit about myself in this, so you get to know me a little bit, because I'd like to get to know all of you a little bit better as well. And I will be setting up some systems, so I'll be able to do that. I was raised on Canisius Lake, and Canisius Lake is not near Canisius College. Canisius College is in Buffalo, and Canisius Lake is near Rochester, south of Rochester, 8 miles from Geneseo. And I always wanted to be a teacher. All my life I wanted to be a teacher. But my family would probably tell you that I wanted to be in charge. So it goes. My first position as a teacher, I was working for New York State through a special grant. And I was working with children of migrant workers in a school supporting reading and literacy. It was a very unique program at the time, and during the day I worked with students, and in the evening I worked with parents on literacy. I became a teacher in Elmira, and eventually I taught for a while. I was an elementary teacher, and then I went to BOCES and became an administrator there. I worked in staff development and eventually for 19 years, and eventually left the BOCES and came to Mahopac as an assistant superintendent, and I retired in 2010. When I was working in the tri-state area, which is the Rochester-Binghamton area, I was fortunate enough to become immersed in the work of Edward Deming and a group of his colleagues who I call the quality gurus. And I learned a lot about change and quality, continuous improvement, and systems thinking. And I had the pleasure of working not only with schools, but in multiple school districts, and multiple school districts, but I also had the opportunity to work with some pretty major and small businesses and organizations in organizational development. And that's something that I am bringing to you, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. I am married, and I have a stepdaughter and two grandsons. One is 3 and one is 8. And they are very joyful in my life. Over a series of meetings, I will be in the future presenting a vision to you and some plans to meet those visions. And I've been collecting some information from, and will continue to, from the board, the staff and faculty and the public, to formally formulate that vision. So tonight I'm just going to give you a peek into some of the goals that are evolving based on the planning teams that I've been working with so far. We've had 3 planning teams that has been required by the state, one for the district and one for each for the high school and the middle school, that involve parents, higher education, teachers, administrators, community members, and agencies. And I attended a public meeting on reclaiming the women's prison and was able to connect with some people there and get some thoughts and ideas. And I also have connected with some people from the community and educators as a follow-up to the dropout forum that Dr. Sieverding presented. But I will also be continuing to gather information. But here are some of the evolving goals that seem to be repeated over and over again as I listen and talk with people. And this is for K-12. It's not for just the high school or anywhere. It's K-12. 4 goals. 1 is creating a culture of care and respect and enhancing the cultures that we currently have in our district. And thinking about how we respect different cultures, different backgrounds, etc. And the whole administrative team and I have attended some training on cultural competence that challenge us to think about how culture plays a part in children's behavior and discipline. And one of the projects that, as a follow-up, is that we are looking at our rules and regulations in schools and how they include or don't include children of different backgrounds. Another goal that I'm hearing over and over again is connecting kids to the school and community. There are sports programs for children, and for those students who are not sports enthusiasts, there's not a lot offered to them. And so part of this particular goal is working with the community and the school to think about how we might provide things for students to do and get them excited about the community as well as the school. A third goal that becomes very apparent is looking at absenteeism from kindergarten to grade 12. Because what we've learned from the research that Dr. Sieverding had done on dropouts is that absenteeism, high absenteeism for students, attendance issues begin in kindergarten. And if you're not in school, you're not learning. You're not learning the content. You might be learning, but you're not learning the content that we need you to learn. And another goal that comes about is parent education around new requirements, curriculum, etc. And I know that there are many, many parents who are very interested in what we're doing in the school, and we would like to provide a forum for them to hear more about that. So as we go into the future, you'll be hearing a little bit more about putting these goals together. There will be plans that go to the state And you can see those plans on the web, and I will alert you to them as we go into the future. The second thing that I'd like to talk about the third thing I'd like to talk about this evening is just to talk very briefly to mention that the district has provided a really great service that the staff and faculty are going to be learning about as we open the school year. They have contracted with a new EAP program. It's called Educators EAP. And there are many support services that are being provided. I'm just going to give you a little look into these services. These services are available for employees and all members of their family. So there are counseling, work-life benefits that has to do with restructuring debt, child care or elder care issues, where to go, where to find information. There are resources benefits that are financial or legal information. There are educator resource centers that talk about budgeting and parent challenges. Personal development and training benefits that have to do with physical exercise and memberships and wellness benefits. So it's a really nice benefit that our faculty and staff will be hearing more about, but wanted you to know that it's just another way that we're providing support for all of us here at Beacon. That's my report.
Great. Thank you. Do we have any board comments tonight?
I have two. First, I read an article in the Poughkeepsie Journal that said that districts in New York State would be getting money back. So I wanted to know if that was something you could. They were a little bit vague. They told the amount that was going to be given back overall, but they weren't specific. And how does that impact us?
I read the same article because I was very excited when they said that they're going to give us more money than they have. They changed the way they calculated state aid several years ago, and they made a foundation aid, is the way they described it. And there was a progression in a plan. So over a 5 or 10 year period, the districts were supposed to get a certain amount of money. And as they didn't have the money to give, so now they've actually taken it back. And maybe the term gap elimination adjustment was something that we talked about during the budget process. That's actually a reduction. So the total of that money that's in the newspaper talks about if they had given everything they had promised, that would be the money that's available. I think the discussion part comes in now because the state of New York decided they have a big surplus of money. So of course the school districts are right there in the front saying, where is the rest of our foundation aid? So I think the article was well written because it needs to show the public that there's money that's owed to the district. I'm not sure when we will get it, if we will ever get it, but if they make a plan to systematically give us a little bit here and there, I think it would be a great thing. Beacon had a high number there, so we were very excited. So if we get that, it would be much appreciated.
Thank you. I had one other question. Dr. Walkley, I was happy to see the 2012-2013 scores. I think we all were. Do you know, does the district already have the scores for 2013, 2014? And then when will parents hear the scores for the district, for the schools, and then for their own children?
We have recently received some preliminary information, but it is mostly raw score information. It's not the score that the students will end up with that the parents will see. And that information is still embargoed by the state. So we are not at liberty to share that information because the state is still putting together where students will end up, levels, etc. But hopefully we will have that fairly soon.
Any other comments? Thank you. We have a motion for the personnel agenda.
A motion to approve personnel agenda items A through V is attached.
Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have a motion for the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda items 12.02 through 12.07.
Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. May I have a motion to approve the tax warrant?
Motion to approve the tax warrant for the 2014-2015 school tax collection.
Second.
At this point, she does the roll call.
Yes. Mrs. Angela Everett,
Yes.
Mrs. Gadsden, Mrs. Hughes, Mrs. Galva,
Yes.
Mr. Garnett,
Yes.
Mr. Munoz is excused, Ms. Patchen is excused, Mr. White,
Yes.
Mr. Zopp,
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
So the motion passes 6 to nothing.
I don't want to waste this opportunity. And I apologize, I didn't jump in a little bit sooner with the personnel. Tonight, on the personnel agenda, we have an internal candidate who applied for the job, was interviewed for the job at Sargent, and has been appointed to that position this evening. That's Brian Archer over here, who will be our new principal at Sargent School. Brian has been an assistant principal here in Beacon. He's been a principal. While he was a principal, he helped move the middle school out of school improvement status, a school in need of improvement status. Sorry, not the other way. It was a good thing. And by choosing Brian, who's an internal candidate, that's going to help with some of the stability within the district. He's somebody who knows the district. He's been here for a while. He knows the ins and outs. And I'm just going to encourage teachers I know have been stopping in and talking with Brian and meeting him. But please stop in and say hello. And if there are parents who would also like to meet him, please feel free to call the school and set up an appointment to do so. And so I want to say
Congratulations.
Congratulations. I good welcome.
Thank you for your trust and support as well. I do appreciate that.
Okay. Yes. Oh, addendum. I was lost for a minute there. May I have a motion for the addendum for personnel?
Motion to approve item X as listed on the addendum.
Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We will not be using a second exec. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.